If you ever needed a stronger indication that the normies are in fact waking up, take a look at this brand new mainstream poll that just recently dropped. Poll shows Disney dislike reaches dangerous levels. Consumer approval is crashing for Mickey Mouse. Yeah, the once great House of Mouse is now in fact the quintessential rat trap. Let's take a look at this. Rasmussen Reports, not exactly a podunk pollster, has a reputation of accuracy and is reporting consumer reaction to the Walt Disney Company. That has some gasping in surprise. If you think our modern political candidates are divisive or perceived as such, they are not on par with what Disney has placed itself by weighing in on controversies. Perhaps that not-so-secret gay agenda was a bad idea after all. Well, yeah, that and just hiring some of the least talented screenwriters that you could possibly drag out of the writer's room of Rick and Morty or the clingers on to other Dan Harmon projects. Imagine that. You get somebody who wrote a couple of lines for an animated sitcom and you give them the keys to the proverbial castle, and well, imagine that. You're springing a couple of leaks, that you've got roaches in the floorboards, that you've got, well, less said about that, the better. Political website 538, which ranks pollsters according to their own rubrics, gives Rasmussen a minus 0.3 rating for accuracy, which is a negative number, is considered excellent. Exactly. Like, as somebody who does a fair amount of, political polling analysis, when I see Rasmussen, I can generally take them at face value, whatever they're looking at. That's pretty accurate. There are very few that do it better, and the fact that they're the ones collecting more culture wars-centric information kind of lets me know already that the normies are starting to make this an issue, at least one that has grabbed the attention of this pollster. Gives them an equal score with the other reputable polling firms such as University of New Hampshire Survey Center, Public Policy Institute of California, UC Berkeley, and Gov Studies, yes, of course. Whereas a lot of your other pollsters, your Harris, your Ipsos, your CNN, obviously, MSNBC, NBC, they're generally going to be weighted towards a left-leaning bias, and then some Fox News polls, obviously, they're going to have their right-leaning bias. Rasmussen, for as much as Democrat operatives want to frame it as being uncharitable or biased, Rasmussen plays it down the middle. Rasmussen's latest polling on Disney, the firm found the Walt Disney Company, had an astounding 40% of respondents take it as an unfavorable company. That's terrible. However, that poll was taken in 2023. Today, as of Disney stock is hammering due to a crashing box office and theme park demand. Yet people are still going to the theme parks, by the way. Like, it's still carrying the day for Disney, and while it's not quite at the same levels as it was pre-pandemic, you can also say that for other theme parks, even though Universal has definitely rebounded a heck of a lot better. When you take a look at the box office side of things, yeah, it doesn't take Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, and Helen Keller to decipher the returns and figuring out that there's a problem at Disney. Rasmussen has found the unfavorability of Disney has actually increased to 45%. Last time I checked, an upward trajectory in that direction. That's a bad thing. That would be atrocious for a politician, but for a company that is intended to generate content families feel safe for children, it's catastrophic. You might consider, for example, that the fast food restaurant had even a 10% unfavorable rating, it would correlate to a significant decrease in sales. But for a company that is essentially a family entertainment corporation, having such a high unfavorable rating is monumentally more challenging for address. And to think, because you might hear poll, and then you might also think that, you're just super sampling, people who are a little bit more attuned to this, but based on some of Rasmussen's other polls, these are just double-blind samples, so the general population test, okay? Nobody who's specifically opposed or attracted to Disney, I don't know about their criminal history, or selected for this, okay? But it actually gets worse. Okay, according to Rasmussen, Disney's favorability is not even in positive territory any longer. Yo, And despite Disney wading into very divisive topics with confidence on its moral superiority, the company now has a lower favorability than former President Donald Trump, which is kind of crazy to think about. The reason for this is not that every survey taker decided to vote in a positive way for Disney if they avoided the unfavorable response. A significant number of poll participants found a middle ground of not taking either side. Well, I like some of the legacy stuff, but the newer stuff really isn't for me or my family. And that means Disney is actually in negative water. Well, yeah, exactly, because there you have your accurate comparisons. So you got Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, probably, quite possibly, outside of AOC, even though she's really kind of bowed out of the public spotlight, is probably the most controversial member of Congress, alongside, of course, Biden, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell. You would have had Nancy Pelosi up there at some point in time, but she's, since been sunset, just like a couple of other people on that list. But okay, cool. Take a look at, very favorable. The highest in that list, well, it's Trump. Which, yeah, okay, even if you're not a Trump supporter, you know that the guy draws numbers. The guy has supporters, diehard supporters. Nobody's really riding with anybody else like that. Like Biden, okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene at 26%, Biden at 22%, and then just drops off a cliff. And Disney, very favorable, 19%. Bruh, that's unthinkable 20, 30 years ago. It's kind of crazy where we have to go with that metric. Hell, even 5 years ago, like it said, it's already jumped up 5 points. Okay, somewhat favorable. Okay, so Trump already has the plurality right there with or rather a majority for sure. 50% with the 20. Disney, well, it's kind of crazy where they have the lead, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who carry the position where some of the newer content isn't really up to snuff, but the legacy stuff, that's fine. And then not sure, then you got not too many middle grounds. Biden at 1%, that's kind of crazy. Trump at 3%, just kind of shows you how polarizing the candidates truly are. But a very unfavorable, skipping down to the lead, Biden at 49%, and Chuck Schumer at 41%, Mitch McConnell, the two leaders in the Senate, in the low 40s, like, come on, man. And then Trump 37%, but Disney actually has the lowest, very unfavorable, but it's also tied with the somewhat unfavorable. Yeah, man, they're the most middle of the road, but when you think of the face of the entertainment industry, when you think of the most prolific studio that's out there, I would imagine Disney probably fits that bill. But the fact that you can't even have people have a generally positive opinion of them, that's catastrophic. The survey arrives as Disney stock tumbled more than 10%. Yes, that was after Bob Iger said, well, our sports endeavors are doing really well, but as for our box office, we're just going to have to continue to IP mine. Titan of entertainment, known to many as the House of Mouse, reported earnings for the March quarter that surpassed the expectations of Wall Street analysts in many ways, but consumers' distaste for the company seemed to scare both the C-suites and the investors who listened. Company shares experienced a notable decline. By midday Eastern Time on Tuesday, Disney stock had fallen 10.4%, trading at $104.41, and ultimately closing the day at $105.39, marking a decrease of 9.5%. This downturn followed a robust year-to-date increase of 29% as of close Monday, but much of that may be attributed to the proxy battle between Nelson Peltz and Disney during that time, exactly where everybody was circling the wagons, at least when it comes to the executives, to the business class around Bob Iger, because, well, they all go to the same parties. They're all a part of the same group in Nelson Peltz. Well, he's the outsider just wanting to do this radical idea of, I don't know, turning a profit with Disney, color him a right-wing fascist. The financial fortitude of Disney parks and experiences was relayed as a bright spot, driving both top-line revenue and bottom-line profits during the first quarter of 2024. Revenues in the segment rose by 10%, and the operating income saw a 12% increase. Despite these gains, Disney has tempered expectations for the forthcoming June quarter, projecting that segment operating income will likely mirror last year's figures, which weren't great. Revenues expected to remain flat. Normally, as a business, okay, just in case you didn't know, they want to grow year over year instead of just holding the status quo. But I mean, you could take a look. You can take a look at the 5-day that I have pulled up here. Obviously, I'm recording this, on the 13th, and it hasn't really budged since that market call, which is not good news. Not good news at all. As you remember, there was that artificial bump after Nelson Peltz got roundly defeated by a bunch of people thinking that Bob Iger, he's definitely the savior that didn't cause all of this stuff. Take a very well-timed step away from the spotlight, only to return once everything, quote-unquote, returned to normal, in order to get a last hit of validation for trying to save the industry. But oopsie daisy, I kind of failed spectacularly with that one. But this is yet another indication. You take those poll results, you take a look at the stock market not rebounding like it had 6 months prior. Like February, you were all riding high, and now you're just coming back to normal, if we're being completely honest, at around $90, sub 100. And taking a look at everything else that you have, at least in an entertainment aspect, the parks are going to do what the parks are going to do. And now that we're heading into the summer season, it should be your busier season. But if you're comparing it year over year, what does that lack of trust in your business ultimately bore out when it comes to ticket sales? Because we know what it's going to do with the box office. Sweet and nothing. Your streaming service, you're having to partner with one of your biggest competitors in Warner Brothers, with folding in your other purchase of Hulu to create this super streamer over the top of it in order to hide your failures with Disney Plus. When it comes to Star Wars, your big flagship offering for 2024 is The Acolyte. Who's looking forward to that? I guess people that are just looking to ratio more trailers online, okay? And then on Marvel, okay, yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine, that's not going to make $1 billion. What else? What else is coming out on streaming? Agatha, whatever we want to call it this week. That's it. Pixar, you got Inside Out 2, a sequel to a film nobody cares about. And then from Disney proper, what? Yeah, who knows? And then in 2025, when you just crank that sludge pipe open one more time, any nostalgia anybody might have been feeling by taking a look at the back catalog without a dearth of new releases are going to be reminded that, oh yeah, we don't really like that new output of Disney. We're kind of fine with the stuff from the 90s because those universal truths, those archetypal stories that you guys used to make bank by telling, yeah, we're going to go ahead and stick with those because this new stuff kind of has an agenda to it, and an agenda that we're not exactly happy sharing with our families. So you better learn, like a lot of studios in the game industry are. But then again, we're talking about a company that is run by Bob Iger, who at the beginning of this year just found out that the kids today, they really like them video games, huh? Oy, oy, oy. Disney will be the last major studio to change, and quite possibly the biggest candidate to take the biggest step back when it comes to prominence in a post-2024 landscape. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.